One rainy morning in a quiet rural town, a baby cried in a one-room mud house. Her name was Adaora, the only child of Obinna and Ngozi, poor but hard-working farmers. They had nothing except a small farm and their love for each other. Obinna planted cassava and yams. Ngozi sold vegetables in the local market. Life was hard, but the little family survived with hope. Adaora was just 7 when tragedy began. Her father, Obinna, fell ill with a strange fever. The family had no money for hospital bills. The local herbalist gave some herbs, but Obinna got weaker. Adaora remembered lying beside him at night, holding his rough hands while he told her, "My daughter, never give up in life, even if the world rejects you." One cold evening, Obinna stopped breathing. Ngozi cried until her voice disappeared. They buried him behind the house because they could not afford a proper graveyard fee. Ngozi became both mother and father to Adaora. She worked twice as hard, carrying baskets on her head to the market. Some days they ate only gari with water. Life was already difficult, but worse was coming. 2 years later, during planting season, Ngozi complained of chest pain. She would cough blood sometimes, but kept working. Adaora begged her to rest, but Ngozi feared they would starve. One night, while Adaora was fetching water, Ngozi slumped by the door. By the time neighbors came, she was gone. Adaora became an orphan at 9. Her relatives refused to take her. Some said she would bring bad luck. An uncle promised to take her, but later abandoned her in a small wooden kiosk where he locked drinks. That became her home. Every day, Adaora washed plates for food vendors and begged for scraps. She wore torn slippers and clothes donated by strangers. At night, she cried quietly. Nobody cared. Years passed. Adaora grew into a thin, humble young woman with scars of hardship. She had no family, no education beyond primary school. Her dream was just to survive each day. When she turned 19, the community women decided she should marry, not out of love, but because they didn't want her to spoil their sons. Nobody wanted to marry an orphan with no bride price, no background. Only one man accepted, Emeka, a struggling palm wine tapper living in a leaking one-room house near the bush. People mocked Adaora. She is marrying another poor rat like her. They laughed. But Adaora had no choice. She entered marriage with a nylon bag, carrying 2 worn dresses and a wrapper her late mother left. Her heart was heavy, but she whispered to herself, "If my parents were alive, maybe my life would be different." The night Adaora entered Emeka's small house, rain was falling. The roof leaked in 3 places. She placed a bucket under the dripping water, while Emeka brought out an old mat. There was no bed, no chair, only a wooden stool and a kerosene lamp that smoked heavily. She sat quietly on the mat, looking at her nylon bag. The tears came again. She thought of her mother's face, how Ngozi always held her whenever she was sad. Now, there was nobody. Emeka noticed her silence and said gently, "Adaora, I don't have much, but I will try my best for you." She nodded. There were no expectations. He was just another poor man like her. The next morning, Adaora woke before sunrise. She cleaned the small house, washed Emeka's shirts, and fetched water from a stream far away. She never complained. She had known suffering since childhood. This one was not new. Emeka went out every day with his climbing rope and calabash to tap palm wine. He returned in the evening with a few naira, sometimes yam or cassava from customers who couldn't pay cash. They ate mostly roasted yam or gari. The neighbors mocked Adaora. She thought marriage would save her. "Look at her, still poor," they would say. Some women refused to greet her. They called her the orphan wife. But Adaora remained humble. She began to hawk roasted corn in the evenings to help her husband. Some nights she returned with nothing because she gave out corn to hungry children. She understood what it meant to be hungry. Unknown to Adaora, Emeka carried a secret. He was not truly a poor palm wine tapper. Long before Adaora came into his life, Emeka worked for a big businessman in the city. He was trustworthy, humble, and hardworking. The businessman loved him like a son and gave him a huge sum of money before dying. But Emeka had seen how money changed people. His own brothers turned against one another because of inheritance. Friends became enemies. He decided to hide his wealth. He moved back to the village and lived simply. He built a big house in the city and invested in properties under another name. He dressed poor and lived poor to find a woman who would love him for who he was, not his money. When Emeka saw Adaora washing plates one evening, barefoot and hungry, something touched his heart. She was humble with no pride, and her story broke him. That was when he decided to marry her. For months, Emeka continued his disguise. He watched Adaora's character closely. Would she complain? Would she leave him for a richer man? But Adaora never grumbled. Even when she fell sick from stress, she still tried to cook for him. One evening, Emeka sat under the mango tree behind their hut. Adaora came back tired, her wrapper soaked with sweat. She dropped her empty corn tray and sat beside him. "Are you not tired of me?" Emeka asked suddenly. Adaora looked at him, confused. "Why will I be tired? You are my husband. This is my home." Her voice was steady. There was no bitterness, only love. That night Emeka couldn't sleep. He knew the time was near to reveal his secret, but he wanted to test her one more time. The next day, Emeka told Adaora he was traveling to a nearby town to deliver palm wine. He wore his usual torn shirt and left early. But instead of the town, he went to the city, to his big house, a mansion with high walls and a black gate. His trusted friend, Chike, who managed his properties, met him. "Oga Emeka, when will you stop hiding? Your wife should know the truth." "Soon," Emeka replied. "I just need one more sign." While he was away, Adaora faced the worst humiliation. One of the women in the neighborhood accused her of stealing a wrapper that got missing. They called her Thief Orphan. Some slapped her. She cried, swearing she didn't take anything. By evening, Emeka returned and saw her sitting outside, her face swollen with tears. "Who did this to you?" he asked, his voice shaking with anger. She told him everything. Emeka said nothing. He held her hand. "Pack your things. Tomorrow we leave this place." Adaora was confused. "Leave to where? We have nowhere to go." Emeka smiled faintly. "You will see." That night Adaora barely slept. She thought maybe he found a new place in another village. She didn't know her life was about to change forever. The next morning, a black SUV drove into the compound. Adaora's mouth opened in shock. Two men in suits came out and greeted Emeka with deep respect. "Sir, everything is ready." Adaora looked at her husband. "Sir, what is going on?" Emeka turned to her. "Adaora, today you will know who I really am." Adaora sat quietly in the back seat of the black SUV. Her wrapper felt rough against the soft leather. She held the nylon bag with her two dresses tight on her lap, afraid someone might throw her out once they realized she did not belong. The road was long, the hum of the car strange and calming. Emeka sat beside her, silent, his face unreadable. "Emeka, where are we going?" Adaora finally asked. He looked at her gently. "To our home." She laughed nervously. "But our home is the small hut." "You mean another hut?" Emeka did not reply. Instead, he reached for her hand and squeezed it. That silence told her something big was coming, but she could not imagine how big. Hours later, the red dirt road turned to smooth tar. The sound of motorbikes and market women faded. They passed tall street lights, big shops with glass doors, and houses taller than any Adaora had seen in her life. She pressed her face to the window like a child. "Are we still in Nigeria?" she whispered. Emeka smiled for the first time that day. "Yes, Adaora, we are." Finally, the SUV stopped before a massive black gate. Adaora's heart pounded. The gate opened by itself. Inside was a long driveway lined with flowers. The building at the end was cream and gold, with wide windows that shone in the sun. She froze. "This is a hotel?" she asked in a shaky voice. Emeka shook his head. "No, this is our home. I built it years ago." Adaora stared at him as if he had grown wings. "Stop joking. Emeka, you built this?" "How?" "We have been eating Gary." He looked into her eyes. "I am not who you think I am. I wanted to be sure you loved me, not my money. I have businesses, houses, investments. I have been living simple because I have seen how money destroys people. Adaora, you passed the test. You stayed. You worked. You loved me when I had nothing." Her mouth fell open. The tears came fast and heavy. She sank to the ground, clutching her wrapper. "I don't deserve this. I don't deserve you." Emeka knelt beside her and lifted her up gently. "No, Adaora, you deserve even more. You are my blessing. You never complained. That is true wealth." Inside the mansion, Adaora felt like she had stepped into another world. The walls were white and gold. The floor shone like water. There were chairs softer than anything she had sat on. She was afraid to even touch them. That night, she lay on a real bed for the first time in her life. The mattress swallowed her like a cloud. But she couldn't sleep. She kept thinking of her mother, Ngozi, of the nights they shared Gary, and cried. She whispered into the dark, "Mama, I wish you could see me now." The days ahead were strange. Emeka bought her clothes, shoes, and simple jewelry. He opened a small account in her name and hired someone to teach her how to read and write better. Adaora was shy at first. She felt lost among the glass tables and silver spoons, but Emeka never rushed her. "Take your time," he would say. "You are not less than anyone here." Adaora remained humble. She still cooked for Emeka with her own hands, even though there were cooks in the house. She greeted all the workers by name. Some of them whispered, "Madam is kind. She remembers where she came from." But not everyone was happy. When news spread that Emeka's wife was an orphan from the village, some of his relatives from the city began to gossip. They came to the mansion uninvited. One cousin, Emeka, looked Adaora up and down and said loudly, "This one, she cannot fit into our family. She doesn't even speak good English." Adaora heard everything but said nothing. She knew her worth was not in fine words. One evening, Emeka organized a dinner for his extended family. They filled the house with noise and perfume. Adaora wore a simple dress. She still felt out of place. After the meal, Emeka cornered Emeka. "You should have married someone educated. She will embarrass you one day." Adaora overheard, but stayed calm. Later that night, Emeka took her hand and said loudly enough for everyone to hear, "When I had nothing, none of you cared. Adaora washed plates to eat. She married me when she thought I had nothing. She is my wife, my pride. Anyone who disrespects her disrespects me." The room went silent. Adaora's eyes filled with tears. For the first time, she felt truly safe. Months later, Adaora asked Emeka if they could visit her village. "Not to show off," she said softly, "but to see where I came from, to stand by my parents' graves." They drove back quietly. When the SUV entered the village, people stared. Children ran after the car. The same women who once mocked her now whispered, Is that Adaora, the orphan wife?" She and Emeka went straight to the small mud house where her parents died. The roof was falling. The graves behind the house were covered in weeds. Adaora knelt and cried, "Papa, Mama, I made it. I didn't die like they wanted. Your daughter survived." Her Uncle Chike came, looking ashamed. He had ignored her when she needed him. Now he stood with his head bowed. "Adaora," he said, "I didn't believe you would ever make it. I was wrong." Adaora looked at him calmly. "Uncle, I didn't come for revenge. I came for peace." She asked the village youth to clear her parents' graves and fix the roof, quietly without pride. When they left the village that evening, Adaora felt lighter. She realized wealth was not just about money. It was about dignity, about never forgetting the road you walked. Back in the city, Adaora grew slowly into her new life. She didn't become a different person. She still remembered the taste of hunger, the sting of being called an orphan. She used her new position to help quietly, paying school fees for 2 orphans, donating food to widows without anyone knowing. She never forgot her mother's words. Even if the world rejects you, never give up. And every night as she lay beside Emeka, she would look at him and whisper, "Thank you for seeing me when nobody else did." Emeka always replied, "Thank you for loving me when you thought I had nothing." Adaora's story wasn't about luck. It wasn't a fairy tale. It was about endurance, humility, and love that sees beyond poverty. In a world where many chase wealth, Adaora taught that true wealth is kindness and the heart that survives hardship without bitterness.